Hi, fellow animal lovers. I'm Denise Dunleavy. I'm an animal communicator and intuitive, and I want to tell you a little bit about what to expect in a session with me. I love interpreting messages from our animals, and it can be a little confusing because they don't talk with words. So I often get images or I feel things in my body. Sometimes they will come across in a certain way. I often, when I start my sessions, I imagine them sitting in front of me and I ask them to show me what they're doing. And that tells me a little bit about their personality because I want to make sure that I'm connecting, that it's the right animal, and that they are coming through in a way that makes sense to myself and to their person. And some of the things that come up might include behavioral issues. So the first thing that I do with a behavioral issue is I ask the animal why they are doing a certain behavior. Sometimes there's a reason that there's something else we can address. For instance, one time there was a dog begging for food at the dinner table, and it was just because he wanted more attention. It wasn't about the food at all. So then I like to help people come up with ways that they can work on this behavior. In this case, we can tell the animal where they should be at dinner time. And so we come up with a plan and we said, okay, at dinner time, he's going to lay in his bed. And then after dinner, we will come over and give him attention and play with him. So in this case, I can tell the animal what's going to happen, and then the person reinforces this by continuing to do this pattern that we've discussed. Another thing that comes up is health issues. And I am not a vet. I am not an expert by any means. I do not diagnose anything. The answer is always, if there's a question, you should ask a vet. However, I do feel things in my body. So sometimes I'm just directed to a certain area. So it may be aches and pains, or it may be, say, a stomach issue. So I can direct to a certain part of the body, and also I can get levels of pain. For instance, I had an animal one time that the owner asked me how they were feeling, and I got a pain in my left side that felt like a sore muscle, felt like I had pulled a muscle. And when I said this, they said he had actually just had a tumor removed from the left side of his mouth. So because I had the left side and I knew that was accurate, I also knew that this feeling I had was that it was sore. It was sore, it was not painful, and he confirmed that he is able to eat, and they agreed that that was the case, that it hadn't affected him. So these sessions can be a lot of back and forth where I will say, here's what I see, or here's what I feel, and ask if that makes sense. And then I can always ask more questions. So if we're trying to figure out the meaning of, say, a symbol that an animal gives me, I will ask more questions about that. I can ask, what does this mean? I can ask yes or no questions. Sometimes those come in more clearly. I can also ask the question in a different way, or I can say, here is what I think this means. Is that correct? And so it can be kind of like a game of charades where they're showing me things and I'm trying to interpret what that might mean. But also, sometimes it means something to the person that I would never know or that wouldn't make sense. So I also have I talk through things. I will say, here's what he's showing me, here's what he's talking about. I think this is what it means. Sometimes it could be one meaning or another. So I will kind of talk through that and offer anything that's coming through, kind of like a chain of consciousness, where I just kind of say everything that comes through. And then we can talk about it and figure out what all of that means. And sometimes the meaning can change throughout the reading. For instance, I had a dog one time that the owner said that she was going on a trip. And the dog said, I want to go with you. That was the first thing, very clearly. The dog said, I want to come. And it turns out that the dog was at the end of its life. And the owner was trying to figure out, do I go on this trip? Do I not go on this trip? What should I do? And the animal, by the end of the conversation, had told me that he was ready to pass because he wasn't healthy enough to go in his current body. But if he was on the other side, he would be able to be on that trip in spirit. So it took us a little while to get there. So these are just a couple of the examples, the types of things that might come up in a reading, and I would love the chance to interpret messages and see what your animal has to say. So you can schedule through my website at intuitivedenise.com. Thanks.